Welcome to our video discussion on a topic that impacts us all. Why sometimes advice from others might not be the best thing for you. In our journey through life, we often find ourselves seeking guidance, opinions, and recommendations from those around us. Whether it's from friends, family, mentors, or even strangers on the internet, advice is readily available and often freely given. However, have you ever stopped to ponder whether all advice is beneficial? Are there times when the well-intentioned words of others may lead us astray rather than towards our desired outcome? Today, we delve deep into the nuanced realm of advice seeking and advice giving. We explore why blindly following the counsel of others may not always serve our best interests. Through insightful analysis and relatable examples, we'll uncover the complexities behind the exchange of advice and learn how to navigate this terrain with wisdom and discernment. As usual, a like and subscription to your channel will help the channel grow. Don't hesitate to take a few seconds to support the creators of this video. We'll get to the main content now. Firstly, let's define advice in this context. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, advice is an opinion that someone offers you about what you should do or how you should act in a particular situation. This definition indicates that advice can still be useful information, especially when we're confused or unsure about what to do in a certain situation. However, in this age of information overload, you hear so many different people telling you what to do, what not to do, everywhere you go. It's time to consider whether advice is always the best thing for you in specific situations or to achieve life goals. There are two reasons why advice from others might not be the best for you. Firstly, the person giving the advice may not fully understand your circumstances. In life, no one fully understands everything you're going through. No one is born at the same time, place, or interacts with people in the exact same way or experiences the exact same environment as you. Even if you or they seem to be dealing with the same issue, you and they are two distinct individuals with unique personalities that don't entirely match up. Because the person giving the advice is not you, they may not always fully understand the motives behind your thoughts, emotions, or reactions. They also cannot see into your inner self to understand why you're doing what you're doing, or what pain, fear you're experiencing, to act a certain way in a particular situation. Because of this, advice from others often doesn't come from a complete understanding of your human nature. This leads to advice from others being difficult to fit best for you. Surely, you've felt somewhat conflicted when blindly following someone else's advice without reflecting on it yourself? Reflection means considering whether that advice aligns with your personality, current circumstances. Reflection is considering whether it's necessary for you to resolve the issue in their way or if there's a more suitable way. So, consider advice as a reference, information for you to consider and evaluate, then come up with solutions to your own problem. Remember, you have the choice to completely follow others' advice, partially follow, or not follow at all. But it's important that you choose to do so because you see it as good and suitable for yourself. That advice becomes your action, decision not from others, but from yourself. Secondly, people's advice is often based on interpretation. Interpretation in this article can be understood as an explanation or an opinion about the meaning of something, also according to the Cambridge Dictionary. Thus, advice can also be understood as a form of interpretation. So, to understand why advice isn't always useful, we need to answer the question of where each person's interpretation comes from. According to schema theory, we interpret the world based on schemas. These are mental structures formed based on life experience information and then stored in memory or can be understood as memory. It is worth noting that schemas will change over time as new information is loaded into memory. They are not fixed. You can follow the image below to understand this concept better. In simple terms, when someone gives advice, it's highly likely that they are basing it on their own schema. This can be understood as being based on the information they've absorbed from memory, experience, and learning of that person. And sometimes, the interpretation based on the individual's perspective, viewpoint may not apply to everyone. Imagine you're interacting with an American, someone who was born and raised in a society that values independence and not relying on parents when they reach adulthood. When you seek advice from this person about moving out on your own, they might find it hard to understand some of the concerns, worries of an Asian person when moving out on their own. Because it seems obvious to them, why would you even think about it? Because advice is a form of interpretation from others, advice can be challenging to truly apply to your situation. Saying this doesn't mean to criticize other schemas as being bad or not, okay? It's just that the personal and private nature of schemas makes advice not truly based on your own worldview. But here's the good thing. There are many different schemas in the world, which means there are many different perspectives, viewpoints, and interesting solutions to solve the problems, concerns you're struggling with. You also have your own unique schema. If you feel stuck in a certain issue, remember that there are many options for you to try, and allow yourself to try, okay? By now, you probably understand why I argue that advice isn't always the best thing for you. I'm not absolutizing the notion of don't listen to others' advice, because in reality, there is a lot of useful advice that comes from a motivation to help, support you. For example, me making this video, just kidding. So, in the last part of this video, I'll share some signs to know which advice is useful and which advice you should ignore. So what advice is useful and what advice should be ignored? Actually, it's a bit difficult to draw the line, so I'll share from the perspective of someone who learns and understands psychology, based on my understanding of empathy, compassion, and communication. To point out a few things, useful advice usually doesn't have a sense of coercion, force, or any invisible expectation that you must follow, because the person understands that you're an independent individual, and what they advise is their personal experiences. Therefore, their advice is suggestive, opens up new perspectives for you to consider further. Useful advice usually doesn't belittle, down on your dignity, values, and ethics. If what they say makes you feel judged, personally attacked, perhaps you should ignore this advice for peace of mind. Useful advice usually isn't based on bitterness, soreness, and painful experiences. For example, you may not need advice from a woman who has just been betrayed, getting divorced, and looks down on men. Instead, try to understand why they make such arguments, opinions, or advice before accepting it. Or simply avoid eavesdropping to avoid headaches. Advice on basic activities or building a healthy lifestyle is usually always useful. For example, eating nutritious meals, getting enough sleep, and exercise regularly. Compulsion is sometimes an exception. In this case, I had to lose weight because of high cholesterol. Also, there was pressure from friends and family. Only then did I persist and have steel discipline. So I think advice on the most basic things like eating, sleeping, rest, physical health, self-care, I will accept that advice. I think some basic things like above should be enough for you to know what to accept and what not. Hopefully through this video, you have more information to know what's good for yourself. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you in the next videos. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and have a fantastic day.